According to World Malaria Report from the World Health Organization, there were 247 million cases of malaria in 2021 compared to 245 million cases in 2020. The estimated number of malaria deaths stood at 619,000 in 2021 compared to 625,000 in 2020. Now, 4 African countries accounted for just over half of all malaria deaths nationwide, with Nigeria 31.3%, Democratic Republic of the Congo 12.6%, United Republic of Tanzania 4.1%, and Niger 3.9%. Now, to take a look at the statistics and the dangers of malaria and a possible malaria-free country, we are joined virtually by a public health specialist, Dr. Nseabasi Ekanem. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on the news today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, quickly, Doctor,
yes,
today... Can you hear me, Doctor?
Oh, I can hear you very loud and clear.
Okay, now... quickly, in 2 minutes. Today is World Malaria Day. So please take us through the causes, the symptoms, and prevention in just 2 minutes.
Okay, malaria is one of the leading killer diseases in Nigeria, especially among pregnant women and children under the age of 5. And it's caused by a pathogen, a disease-causing organism called Plasmodium falciparum, which is transmitted from one person to another through female Anopheles mosquito. And that's why we often encourage people to keep a healthy environment, because when there's poor sanitation, when there's waterlogged areas, there's likelihood of malaria infestation in such areas. Well, when malaria occurs, patients normally have symptoms including fever, headaches, body aches, loss of appetite, and sometimes abdominal pain. Unfortunately, the symptoms of malaria are similar to other symptoms. That is why we often recommend that if you experience any of the symptoms I mentioned above, it's important to get a test carried out so you can confirm whether or not you have malaria. And if you have malaria, there are very safe anti-malarials available, particularly ACTs, the adenosine combination therapies. These are the ones that are approved by the World Health Organization for use in treatment of malaria. The best way to prevent malaria is through the use of long-lasting insecticide-treated mosquito nets. These nets actually prevent the vector of malaria parasite, which is female Anopheles mosquito, from perching on your skin and transmitting the parasite onto the body. But the good thing now is that we have the federal government of Nigeria has approved the malaria vaccine, and the malaria vaccine has been seen to be quite effective, at least in 4 out of every 10 persons. It's very effective. And we expect that going forward, Nigerians will be able to have access to these vaccines so that they can also contribute towards reducing the transmission of the parasite from one person to another.
Right.
So these are basically the things one needs to do in order to protect him or herself from malaria.
Okay, Doctor. This year's World Malaria Day is centered on 3 key I's, and one is to invest and then innovate and implement. Now, I want us to focus on the 3rd I, which is implement. Now, for a while now, we know that interventions in the country has included distribution of mosquito nets, spraying and minimizing potential breeding grounds. Now, my question now is, Doctor, is all of this enough to curb malaria?
Well, I think it's very good that you emphasize implementation. I think what we need to also lay emphasis on is how do we implement all the policies that we have. The National Malaria Elimination Program, NMEP, and of course the U.S. President Malaria Initiative have rolled out, in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Health, policies to prevent malaria. Like I mentioned, the long-lasting insecticide-treated nets sometimes when you go to communities, you realize that people are not using these nets, either because they are not trained on proper use of mosquito nets, or some of them don't even have access to these nets. So it's important that while we educate people about how to use a net, that we make this net available to people so that they can use it. And studies have shown that with the proper use of long-lasting insecticide-treated nets, people can stay for several months without getting infected with malaria. Again, we need to also look at quality improvement in terms of commodities. Malaria treatment commodities like the drugs. Some of the drugs that we have, some of the malaria drugs that we have been seen not to be effective in the treatment of malaria. We need to make sure that we strengthen the standards of manufacture and distribution of these medications so that we can get to the consumer at the right quality. And then the last thing is we need to build what we call user education. People who are taking anti-malaria should know how to take it. A number of people, when they take the first 2 tablets or the first 4 tablets and they feel fine, they abandon the remaining doses. And that leads to growing cases of resistant malaria parasites, which now makes it difficult for treatment to be carried out. So we need to implement. We don't need to only have these policies, but we must implement this policy to the letter. And where financial commitments need to come in terms of subsidizing the product to ensure access to these products or these commodities, we need to make sure that we also come in that direction so that at the end of the day, we would be able to have a robust programs. We know in some countries like Argentina that was formerly endemic for malaria, they are now malaria free. Even China is malaria free. So I believe that Nigeria can beat malaria, and it begins with a conscious effort towards implementing some of the actionable plans that we have to eliminate malaria in our country. That is what I feel. That's what I believe.
So, briefly, can you highlight some of these plans that have been put in place to eradicate malaria? And do you think Nigeria can actually get to that point where we can say we are 100% malaria free?
Well, I would say that some of those plans, to begin with, I think our population is also a factor here because there are a lot of efforts. I mean, the Global Fund has invested a whole lot in Nigeria, billions of dollars every year, towards malaria elimination. But unfortunately, we have some level of, bureaucracies, or you could call it corruption that comes in, that, some of these products and commodities don't get to the last mile, to the final consumer.
That was Dr. Ekanem,